It is a very warm welcome to, I think we can probably say friend of the pod, Shaunagh Brown. Good morning. Big smile as ever. How are you, Shaunagh? How's your festive season? All good?
Yeah, good morning, Johnny. Thanks for having me. It was I'll say quiet, but we was just around the family's house, was around my brother's on Christmas Day and my sister's on Boxing Day, but they're pretty much around here all the time. So it's just another day in the Brown household, really. But lots of food, drink, games. I guess games is the addition, actually, making sure we play some ball games, especially Scrabble. No, that's a lie, not Scrabble. Sorry, no, not Scrabble at all. Scattergrees. So SC gets me confused, you see, because I'm no good at word games like Scrabble and bananagrams. No good. Scrabble. Oh, I said it again. Scattergrees.
Scattergrees. I'm not sure I've ever played Scattergrees. Bananagrams is a firm favourite at Chateau
Yeah,
Hamo.
I'm not very good with letters and making up words. But then we play, what's the other? Articulate. That's a good one because it's a talking game. I'm pretty good at talking and describing things.
Shaunagh, we wanted to get you on because obviously you've drawn a curtain on your career, and short really compared to the long and the toothed, don't tell her, Sunters and these kind of peeps. You packed a hell of a lot into 6-7 years, and we just wanted to sort of just have a look back at that really, and already talking about your Christmas, you're talking about family. I know it's hugely important to you. But did you grow up in a household where the sport was on the telly, or the radio was on with the football results? Were you going here, there, and everywhere on the weekends during the evenings to get that spark into the competitive sport that has clearly served you so well?
Short answer that always surprises everyone. No, not at all. None of my family are particularly into sport. Nobody else does any sport. Only my nephew, because I've made him play rugby. He's pretty good at it now. No one goes to watch sport. It's just me. But then because of me, everyone else is now into it in terms of watching and traveling all across the country and sometimes the world to either come and watch me or we go and watch someone else together. But no, didn't grow up in a sporting household at all. I'll always put my sporting side down to growing up with boy cousins and always being not only the only girl, but the youngest one. And everything was just about keeping up with them, wanting to be better than them, wanting to climb the tree quicker than them, wanting to beat them up in a fight, wanting to beat them in a race, and just being better than them, really. So I owe it all to my boy cousins.
And you're still really close with them now?
Yeah. We talk. One of them's moved to Hong Kong. Another one, there's Kent, Essex. I think another one's thinking of moving to New Zealand. So we're a family who gets around. But yeah, I am one of them in particular. He's the next youngest to me, and he's a primary school teacher. Jonathan. He's one of my, don't tell anyone, he's one of my favorite cousins. But he'll always go around and saying, Shaunagh tells everyone it's because of me that she's doing so well. And I love that about Jonathan, because he once said to me, because I used to beat him up all of the time, he would say, you just wait till I'm older than you and then I'll get you. And it was like, whoa, no one's ever let him forget that, because he was older than me. And, the next bit being that you're never going to get older than someone unless they pop their clogs. So, yeah, that's Jonathan. He's one of my faves.
So when did this urge, and I did know you weren't a particularly sporting family, but I wanted the answer that I got, because it makes it even more impressive, just the smorgasbord of achievements in your back catalogue in terms of sport. So it makes it even more remarkable. So when did you start, or who helped channel that competitive side that you're talking about with your cousins into a sort of sporting arena? And what was that first sporting arena?
A huge part of it was my mum, and mainly because she's a single parent. She knew what was good for us. She's a good woman. She always knew that there was more. There was always more that we can achieve. And I've heard it once that the best you can do in life is always to want to be better than your parents or parent if you've only got one of them. So I believe from a young age, she was always pushing me to do more, to be more, to become more. And a lot of it was just keeping me busy, because she was working. She's always worked, and childcare is expensive. So she would find anything going that was free, anything council funded, anything with a charity, any sort of exercises, any evening classes. So swimming, she found out at Crystal Palace Sports Centre, they had free swimming lessons because they was teaching the swimming teachers how to teach swimming. And so all the lessons for us as kids were free. So we was there, I think it was like every Monday evening learning how to swim. And then we used to go to, in the summer, it was just called Kennington, I think it's just called Kennington Summer Project. And that was run by the Metropolitan Police. And that was about keeping kids off of the street, giving them somewhere to go. And that was all free. And sometimes like you'd go to do an activity like kayaking or rock climbing, you had to pay £1. And some kids couldn't afford that. So some kids just stayed in, it was based in the school at the time, it was Lillian Bailey's school. And some kids just stayed in the school playing table tennis, snooker, darts, whatever's going on. But if you were a cool kid and your parents were doing all right, you'd pay the £1 to go rock climbing for the day or kayaking or whatever it was. Football, used to go football at Ferndale, and she worked for local authority. She worked in a youth offending team. So she knew about all of the schemes that mainly were to keep kids out of trouble. And so I spent a lot of my youth growing up with young offenders because that's the schemes that she would put me in. And anyone could join. It's just a lot of these things are not well advertised, or it's only if you're in the system you know about them. So most of the time it's just my mum keeping me out of trouble, keeping me busy while she was at work. And while you're in these schemes and these arenas, you just get on with it. You're not a girl or a boy. Well, for me, I wasn't. I was just playing. I just spent so many years just playing. And I know I sound like an old lady when I talk about the phones and not having as much when we were growing up. And I used to share a phone with my mum. Used to play Snake, and that was the extent of it. But aside from that, I just played. I'd come back from school, get changed, straight out playing down the adventure playground. Sometimes I'd try and go straight to adventure from school in my uniform. But I think there was a rule in place at adventure that you had to go and get changed to stop kids doing that, to make sure that they check in at home before coming back out for another few hours. So yeah, I just played for years and years, and then eventually going to secondary school, Addie and Stanhope, it was having a great set of PE teachers. The main one in particular was head of PE. She was into her basketball like at a decent level, so she knew competitive sport and how it worked. And the whole time, her and Mr. Corley were just always pushing me into things and saying, why don't you give this a go? Like my whole life, I've just been trying things out because people think we'll be good at it. And even now, like I just trying things out because people are coming at me saying, I think you'll be good at this. Do you want to have a go? So yeah, that's a really long way of answering your question. But my first formal sport was athletics. So I just went down to local athletics track, Ladywell, and just said, is there a team that trains here? Is there something I can do here? Because I was there for mini marathon trials. And the person who worked there just said, yeah, there's a couple of clubs, come on whichever day you want, and rocked up and then started doing athletics with Blackheath Harriers, as they were at the time.
If I can just pick up on something you said previously, with young offenders, spending that sort of time with them, was there much temptation? And if there was, how strong was that temptation to choose a different path? I'm guessing they had a fairly decent, sounds like a very sort of understanding lead on you, but was there other temptation to choose different paths in life?
Yeah, for sure, because it's not only all the time I'm spending with people who are officially young offenders, i.e. they've been caught and charged and put into a system, but then there was all the evenings and weekends I'm spending just playing out in my area. Grew up in Nunhead, Peckham, New Cross, and it was people who were at adventure that would just go and play in the park, and sometimes like the no good kids you see like hanging out in a block of flats. That's what I used to do. And it's not like that I'm proud or not proud, it's just what it is. Like, you just used to hang out on the stairs with your mates with no motive whatsoever, and to the point where I look like sometimes at my younger family members, I'm like, what are you doing? You're just hanging out in the park. But then I think, well, I used to do that and I've turned out all right. So maybe it's just part of the circle of life. You have to go through this to realize it's a bit pointless. So yeah, growing up, constant temptation. Like, there's people that I grew up with who I still speak to now, who are in jail or dead, unfortunately, or maybe their lives have not gone as well as they either should or could, or not doing as well as I am. But ultimately, the thing that kept me away from that side of life was mum, because I would always feel bad if I'd done something wrong, but sport as well. So it'd get, especially with athletics, it was Tuesday, Thursday, and training started at something like 7, half 7, sometimes in Catford, sometimes in Bromley. So I'd have to leave adventure. So whether it was of an evening after school or during school holidays, it got to a point in the day where I had to go. And because I enjoyed sport and competition and that so much, I wanted to go. It was never a thing of mum had to come and drag me away to go to training. Like, she never had to chase me down. Like, it was always, okay, fine, you can go out and play out all day, but just be home for 5 because you've got to go to athletics. And that was always the thing. And there's a few situations where I literally walked away from badness to go to training, and so I never got involved in that side. So yeah, constant temptation, but it was sport that just sort of saw me right as such and just kept me on a path. Not because I thought, oh no, that's wrong, I won't do that. It was just, I want to go athletics. That's what I've trained for. I've got a competition coming up, I want to win. So see you later, boys and girls.
So sport is this vehicle, and lots of people use it, don't they, in lots of different ways. You're talking about the way you use it there. We don't all grease the wheels and fly down the hill using sport the way that you did, but it was athletics, hammer throwing. When did somebody first grasp onto that clear competitive edge that you have? You've spoken about it 3-4 times, whether it's beating a cousin, running up a tree, or well, I've got to have a competition, I can't be outplaying my mates. Who first harnessed that competitive edge of yours? Was it somebody at the athletics, at the Harriers?
It was, I guess it was my first ever throws coach. Well, to be fair, it was my sprint coach as well. So we had Michelle down at Ladywell Track, like I say, when it was Blackheath Harriers, sprinting, and people have seen my body shape. They've seen me run on the pitch. I'm not made for sprinting. I never have been. I give it a go. But she was like, well, if you want to do something else, there's other options within track and field. You don't have to run. And so discovered throwing. And it was Herbie. He took me to my first competition, because a lot of growing up, I've had support the whole time. I've been looked after by other people the whole time. I've had people pick me up from the train station, because mum didn't drive, it never has, and probably never will. So I'd have other club parents and club coaches pick me up from the train station, pick me up from the bus stop, sometimes take me to a competition. So those are the people who just constantly harness me, and sometimes pick me up from my house to go to competitions. And it was my first competition. I just rocked up, and it was in Tunbridge, and I can't remember if it was Tunbridge Wells or Tunbridge, and I know there's a very big difference, but I can't remember which one we were at. And I threw a club record, because I was just having a great day out, because I was from SE15 in Nunhead, Peckham, and I didn't get out of London, and I've gone to Tunbridge, and it's just like, whoa, what a pretty countryside we're in. So I was just on a great day out. Mum made a full pack lunch, as she does. Threw in a competition, won, which was pretty cool. But then someone came over to me and said, oh, you've just thrown a club record. So the furthest anyone at under 13 had ever thrown for Blackheath, and we're called Blackheath and Bromley Harriers now. The furthest anyone's ever thrown. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I didn't think much of it, because I'm just there for a great day out. And they said, no, that's like history. Nobody's ever thrown further than you at your age. And I was like, oh, all right. And so, yeah, from there, I was like, well, maybe I should keep doing it, because I didn't even know what I was doing, and I threw pretty far. So, yeah, a lot of it came from my first club coaches at Blackheath and Bromley Harriers.
Your first throw, and typically understated as you are, yeah, that's nice. Just having a nice day out. It's so you. It's brilliant. And then those competitive juices get going, and you wanted to, oh, well, I'm quite good at this. And that competitive spirit continues. And then you end up sort of representing your country at a Commonwealth Games. Just talk us through that.
Yeah, so it was a long journey to get there. So I started athletics in 2002, I want to say, and the senior Commonwealth Games wasn't until 2014. Yeah, so in between that, I competed at junior level, at youth level. So I'd been to a World Youth Championships, which is under 18, World Juniors, which is under 20, European Juniors, and a Commonwealth Youth Games, which is under 19, I think it was. So yeah, there was so many good experiences along the way, and like the senior Commonwealth was well my ultimate in the end. But for me, it's more about the journey. The destination was great, but actually I would say it was a failed destination, because my aim was to compete at the Rio 2016 Olympics, and I wasn't on course to do that. So I pulled away from it and so started rugby. But competing at the Commonwealth Games was great, but it was more about the journey on the way to get there. And that is what opened up my eyes to the world. And not only that my life is bigger than London, that my life is bigger than the south of England. My life is bigger than Great Britain, but there's so much world out there, and then so many different and exciting and cool people, and so much to learn, and so many questions to ask. And I remember most of it, Commonwealth Youth, well, it was in India, and most of the time I just asking questions to people. I'd say, where have you come from? Where do you come from? Because also with the Commonwealths, it's not all countries, sometimes they're territories. And I'd say, what does your flag look like? So I'm pretty good with flags. I don't know, became obsessed with what flags look like. I'd ask their population. I just ask questions because I was fascinated by, there's so many different people out there, and I had no idea until I started competing on the global scale. And those are the things that make me the person I am today, for realizing that the world is so cool, that there's so much great people and great situations and so much fantastic stories in this world that we should be showing off it. And yes, there's a lot wrong, there's a lot bad, but there's even more good. And I've just always wanted to know more, and I've wanted to find out about people, how they live. And yeah, it's just curiosity takes me so many places sometimes.
Being away in Shaunagh Brown style of positivity and the bigger world, I'm going to try and just rein you back in slightly. We can't cover everything. We need a sort of a week podcast. But while we're doing the shot leading up to 2014, during that time, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're also throwing discus, strong women competitions. Is it
Highland Games?
Highland Games?
Yeah.
Did you toss the caber properly?
Yeah, I was one of the only women who could in each competition. Yeah.
And how were you with the?
I got a 12 o'clock once, which is the perfect up and over rather than up and to the side. It was up and over. Yeah, it was one of my greatest achievements ever. Nobody knows.
Who knew that?
Yeah, well, there you go.
I knew I'd get an exclusive. Yes. I mean, that is some achievement, getting the caber over, let alone a 12 o'clocker.
Yeah, and it even took me to Iceland once, just to do a Highland Games, and again, fantastic experience being in Iceland, entirely for sport. It's just
wow.
It's done me the world. Yeah.
Mum didn't just take you to Iceland. Hey, stop it. But there you go. I mean, Highland Games, I'd prefer to carry on talking about that. But no, we must carry on. So we're doing the Highland Games. We've got strongman competitions. We're throwing a discus, shot, javelin, all. Yeah.
No javelin, but shot, discus,
okay.
hammer. Yeah.
Why not javelin then?
Because I can't throw it very far.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Rotation,
yeah, javelin throwers are born. You can't make a javelin throw. If you throw a javelin, no, you can't. There's no. That's the saying. Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah.
You also were boxing at that time as well, is that right?
Yeah, 2015, I had a professional boxing fight in summer of 2015. Yeah.
Against?
Well, it's controversy, I guess. Her name.
Oh.
They told me one name.
Why is it controversial?
That wasn't her name, and they told me she would weigh this much in body weight, and she weighed a lot more. And they told me that she wasn't that experienced, and it's her first few fights, and she'd been fighting for 10 years. So yeah, it wasn't an ideal situation. It taught me another bit about life, though. You just don't trust everyone.
So that wasn't the most positive experiences. But how did Shaunagh Brown the Hammer come about?
So I was at a sevens competition. So I just started rugby, went to sevens in the summer, and yeah, just doing rugby as you do. First time ever. I remember my first tackle was just a shoulder barge, and so penalty straight away. And captain come running over like, sorry, no, I'm sorry. She's this is her first game, because I didn't rap at all whatsoever, and I ended her. So this is just a penalty, so that's okay. And then throughout the day, just playing, and last game of the day, a guy came over to me and said, I've watched you play today. I've watched your handoffs. More importantly, you look like you'd be good at boxing. Would you want to have a go? And these opportunities come at my door, and I just say yes. So that's how that one happened. And he just said, do you want to have a go at boxing? So I said, yeah.
100% you did. And but only the one professional fight.
Yeah, it was. I've always wanted to try it, and I used to tell everyone all the time, I'm going to do boxing one day, going to do boxing. Got the chance, tried it, realized it's not for me, and then I'll move on from it. It's really that simple.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Just took the 2-3 mil and walked, yeah?
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, we could talk about, because you're British Gas during that period as well, and your commercial diving.
Yeah. Well, British Gas was, I'd say, my first proper job. I'd always describe it as my first proper job as the apprenticeship, 2010, and I stayed there for 5 years. So I went from installing boilers, so all the hard, heavy work, taking boilers physically off of the wall, radiators, pipe work, getting under floorboards, like gritty stuff, and then transferred over to service and repair, which is a lot lighter on the hand, shall we say, and you just attending to boilers, and you just maybe change a few parts here and there, but nothing as strenuous, and cut down my hours so I had time to train. Like, my whole life has been molded around sport, and I was just in a privileged position where British Gas helped me and supported me so much, and I asked for support, and they essentially just said yeah. And I put the fact that I went to the Commonwealth Games, like, a lot of it is down to the support I receive from British Gas, just as a person. They just, and I do ask afterwards with organisations and say, why me? Why did you want to help me? And they just said, contrary to popular belief, like, we actually like our people and we want to support our people. Sometimes it just depends how they ask, when they ask, and if we can facilitate or not. And we was in a place that we could facilitate you. You asked nicely with a smile on your face, and so we helped you.
And it's that power to actually ask the question, and to potentially that bravery just to go to areas that you possibly wouldn't have done. It seems to litter your entire life so far. Somebody says, "Oh, well, it looks like you might be quite good at boxing." Oh, well, I'll give that a go. What ties these all together? You have I mean, no idea the meterage under the sea you would be when you were diving.
Only up to 50 meters.
Only.
It's not the deep stuff. Some people go down to like 200 when they're saturation diving. That's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah. What ties these all together?
Opportunity.
Okay.
So I get presented with an opportunity, and if I can't find a reason to say no, I say yes. I'll always want to give something a try to see if I like it or not, because if I don't like it, I'm content that I've tried it. I don't like it, I can move on. There's a part of me that would think, oh, what if I give that a try? What if I'd have given that a bit longer? And I guess the everyday stuff, you can relate it to people with food. And I truly don't understand how you can offer someone a plate of, I don't know, chicken tikka masala, and you go, I don't like that. I go, have you tried it? I go, no, but I know I don't like it. I'm like, you can't know you don't like it because you've not tried it. How can you live your life like that? How do you know you do or don't like something, you're good or no good at something, if you've not tried it? And in the same way that you're trying to get a kid to eat broccoli, and most parents will say, come on, just try it, and they'll get really frustrated with their kid for not trying it, and the kid declaring they don't like it. But so many adults have that trait as well. It's just in a different way. So I'd always try and say yes to things that people offer me, and if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't.
But why? But sort of why you? Because you've achieved. We won't go into age; that would be ungentlemanly. But you are a spring chicken, really. And yet, I mean, we've skirted around, but we have listed 5, 10, 15 things that you've done and achieved in your life. From and if we're honest, from a background that probably wouldn't lend itself to having those kind of sporting opportunities. So why do you think have you ever stopped and thought about that? Now, especially now you're retired, have you stopped and thought, well, why have these opportunities come my way?
I think a lot of it is me, and as much as I joke about it with mates about this is not the Shaunagh show, and I'll always reply, yes, it is. I'll make it about me. But I will also almost make opportunities. So as much as I say opportunities come to me, I don't just hang around waiting for opportunities to turn up. Like, I'll put myself out there. I'll use my platform on social media. I'll go physically into rooms and ask questions, and I'll go to networking events that I think, I really can't be bothered, but I'll make an effort. I'll find out who people are, what jobs they have, and then I think, can they do anything to benefit me? I'll then connect with them on LinkedIn afterwards. I'll send that message, oh, it's great to meet you last night, if we can work together at any point. Like, I will happily go and talk to people just in case, like, someone says to me, oh, should we have a chat? And in my head I'm thinking, I don't know you, what have we possibly got in common? But then my almost business brain, because that's what it's come to, says, well, I don't know what they can offer me. Like, so just have that conversation. So a lot of it is down to me putting myself out there, making myself vulnerable. And you used the word earlier, bravery. There is an element of bravery to it, because when I'm putting myself out there, I still always have the fear of rejection. But for every 10 times I ask, I might get rejected maybe like 7 or 8 times. But those 1, 2 or 3 times that someone says yes, those are the bigger opportunities. So people don't see the stuff that I'm doing when I'm at home, when I'm on my phone, when I'm messaging people, when I'm putting stuff out there. And then there's a lot of brands that I want to work with. There's a lot of industries I want to get into that I can't, because it's, at the moment, it's a no. But for, like I say, every 10 times I ask, there might be 8 times I get rejected, but it's the 2 times that I get accepted. They're the really cool ones. They're the ones I capitalize on. And they're the ones I want the other 8 who said no to look back and go, oh, she's a good person. Like, maybe we should have worked with her. And I've had it previously when I've directly asked the brand, do you want to do a collaboration? Do you want to work together? And they've either ignored me or just said maybe, or maybe they've actually said straight out no, which is always a preference, but they don't always do that. And then I've carried on, like, in the months and potentially a year or 2 years. And then I've had those brands message me saying, oh, did you still want to collaborate? And it depends what mood I'm in that day. Sometimes I go, no, actually, no, I don't. I asked you last year. You couldn't even reply to me. So no, I do not. There's a lot going on in the background that people don't always see. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of moments when I think, why am I bothering? Like, why am I even doing this? I'm just hitting my head against a brick wall. But there's a lot of special moments in there, and they're the ones I celebrate, and they're the ones I get celebrated for. So I guess that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, it's just a lot of that. I'm sure people can relate to their own lives and keep knocking on that door.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay Peat and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod. Enjoy.
So you've got all these other sports going on. You've got, whether it be a tree trunk in your hands, a cannonball, an incredibly hard frisbee. When did your hands first meet a rugby ball?
So my hands first met a rugby ball going down to Medway Rugby Club in the summer of 2015. And it was after I'd been to the Commonwealth Games 2014, started falling out of love with the sport of athletics. And I actually told myself I was going to retire. I was going to retire from sport and I was just going to be a normal person. And it was about the time I got into diving.
Who were you trying to kid? Who were you trying to kid, Shaunagh?
Well, myself mainly. I thought, I just want to go work, come home, watch TV, have dinner, go to bed. I want to do that every day. And even now, when I say it out loud, I'm like, ugh.
I was going to say, I'll let you into a secret. That's never going to happen for you. That's never newsflash. That is not going to be your life ever, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So that lasted 2 weeks, and I was like, I can't do this. I need something else to do. And so I just sent an email I found a local rugby club. And why rugby? Just because I knew it existed, and some of the boys that I'd done shot and discus with were rugby boys. And they've always just said, when are you going to start rugby? Sean, like, in jest / not in jest / look at me now. So I just thought I'd give it a go, see if there's a local club. And yeah, just emailed Medway and just said, can I come along? And they said, yeah, of course you can. We train on a Tuesday, I think it's just once a week, like an hour and a half once a week. And yeah, just rocked up to Medway. And even after the first session, the coach then introduced me to someone else who came over or something. And he just went, this is Shaunagh. She's going to be good. And I was just like, oh, well, that sounds cool. But, I'm used to being good at things. but it was from there just played.
And then the because your international debut was Canada.
Yep. 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Where was that?
Allianz/StoneX Stadium.
Ah, that's when they came over for a 3 November, wasn't it? They came over for a three test match. That's right. I was going to say I called that debut, but I didn't actually. I called the next week, but that's a pretty rapid rise. Take us through just quickly that path. Who did you meet at Medway that potentially pushed you on that way, or who noticed you and got you into that sort of top level?
So with Medway, we went off like within a few weeks of training. There was a sevens competition because it was in the summer. Went off to that competition. That's where I met the boxing guy. Had the boxing match, but I knew I was going off to do a diving course, a commercial diving course in Scotland, in Fort William, for September to December of 2015. So I actually didn't play any 15s until I got back. So I think it was just a one sevens tournament I played with Medway in the summer, and then boxing. Then went away for 3 months and came back December. And literally, I got back on the Friday. I think I was playing on the Sunday. I just said, "I'm coming back. Do you want me to play?" And it's like, "Yes, you're starting." And that was December 2015. And for a few games, I would say a few months, it wasn't a few months. For a few games, I was content with just playing at that level and scoring pretty much every time I touched the ball. One game, I think I scored 6 tries. I was at a point where I was converting as I was kicking, just because it was something else to do, because I would get to training a bit early. I was like, well, surely there's something I could do with this 20 minutes. And so I taught myself how to kick. As I taught myself how to kick, you know what I mean? I'd just go and have a punt at the ball a few times. And I was quite happy for a while, and just doing it locally, because I'd always commuted into London to train with athletics, and it was all long, so I quite liked just being 20 minutes down the road, being able to finish work at 6 and still having time to come home, have something to eat and go up there. But then I went to watch England play in the Six Nations, England women, and I was watching it, sitting there at the stoop with my mum watching the game. I just went to Mum, "I reckon I could rock on that pitch and no one would know. I ain't got a clue what I'm doing." She was like, "All right." I said, "You know what, Mum? I'm going to play for England." And she went, "Oh, all right, fine." Because Mum's used to me. I say things like that all of the time, and she just says, "All right, then go and make it happen." So that's about as much as I got from my mum that day, in terms of support, because she's completely used to it. And I came away from that game. I started telling people. I just said, I've decided I'm going to play for England. Like everything I do now, I want to play for England. And some people were like, "Yeah, all right, like, that's what they all say," and etc. But I decided. So that was the only outcome that was going to happen according to me in my life. So I made the changes, i.e., well, first you've got to investigate. I found out you had to play Premiership rugby to play for England. So that was me straight away looking into the closest club. And it was at the time, Aylesford Balls is still just down the road from me, but they was moving to Quins. And I was like, "Oh, that's highly inconvenient." It's gone from being 20 minutes away to an hour and 20 minutes away, but it was still geographically the closest club. And that's how I ended up at Quins, just because even to this day, it's the closest Premiership club to me. And even then, I rocked up there, and I didn't spout off too soon I wanted to play for England, because I realised that it's hugely big-headed of me, because I'm now amongst the big girls, like in the Premiership of Premiership rugby. A lot of them have come from Richmond, Premiership champions. So that was just about learning everything about rugby, learning about myself, learning how to operate as a team as well, because that's a whole different learning curve coming from an individual sport. And the coaches said to me early doors, they went, "You not played much rugby, have you?" And I went, "No, how can you tell?" It's like, "Well, because you ain't got a clue what you're doing, but you're really good lifter in the liner, and I've never seen someone lift someone so high." And I was like, "Yes, pretty much what I've got actually is strength." And that was Jock, Karen Finley at the time, and she just took me under her wing from there. And never, Jock, she's never too openly loving and caring. She shows it in a very different way, in a way that makes you want more. I'd say like a Simon Cowell. So if you do something good, it's like, "Oh yeah, well done," and you think, "Oh, surely I deserve more than that." So you want to achieve more so you can please her. And then you do something really cool and she goes, oh yeah, that was good. And she's got a smile and she's happy. You're like, yes, I've pleased Choc. That's a good day. And yeah, just been at Quins ever since. And I went on a firefighter course, got into Kent Fire and Rescue as a trainee, and it was on that course. I was still playing rugby on the weekends, but the training course was Monday to Friday residential, so I couldn't train. So yeah, I don't know if a lot of people know that I wasn't training. When I got my first cap, I actually wasn't training. I was only playing on the weekends, and just got a phone call from Matt Ferguson, who was a forwards coach at the time, and just says, I know the fire service have been supportive of you for playing on the weekends, because I used to tell them that when I would go in. Do you think they'll give you a bit of time off to come into a training camp to maybe get your first cap for England anytime soon? And I was like, oh my goodness. And I was in the middle of class, like had to leave class to take the call. And I was just like, I don't know. Maybe I can ask. I don't know who I'm going to ask. So yeah, I just went straight back in, and all the fire service trainers at the time, they were big into their rugby. And I kind of got a text from another player asking for my number, and it was kind of going to happen. So I was telling the fire service people this all the time. So I came back in, hence why he let me leave the class to take the call. Came back in and he's like, so are you going? And I was just like, whoa, I have no idea. And so again, it was so much help and support from others, i.e. those in the service, that allowed me to have a week off, because it's not a done thing. You're in your training course for 3 months, that is it. And I walked away from there with the support of everyone in fire service, and they said, well, it's not a normal thing to give time off during this period, but it's a pretty special moment, and I'm sure we could make something work. And so I did have to put extra hours in elsewhere and catch up of my own accord, etc. But yeah, again, the help and support of so many others is why I achieved so much even till today.
Oh, there's so much in there. What a wonderful wing to be under, a jock wing. But I mean, we've had exclusives left, right, and centre here. Comparing Karen Finley to Simon Cowlow is my absolute favourite so far. She will love that. We're going to text her straight away. Just on a part with Shaunagh. She's comparing you to Simon Cowell, so pull those trousers right up. So England have come calling. Did you feel like a fish out of water? I'm interested because clearly your rugby development wasn't as probably as far down the line as you would have liked, and the coaches, but obviously you're a raw athlete. You've been to a Commonwealth Games already. Did you feel like a fish out of water, or just that burning desire, which is there with you anyway, but just to get better, to feel like your place is earned?
No, it's always about wanting to get better. And I always recognize, and even to this day, recognize that I am not the complete rugby player. Like, I have no doubt if I stayed in rugby, I could still improve further as a player. But that moment in time, it was about accepting that, like, for me to accept that I am good enough at this stage in my career because they've invited me here. And the constant thing of people having imposter syndrome and people thinking, oh, am I good enough to be here? I know you might find this hard to believe, don't really seem to have that. So it was knowing that I've earned my spot here. I've not been given this out of charity or out of some kindness of someone's. That I'm here because I've earned the right to be here. And whilst I'm here, I'm going to make the full use of everything that's available to me, whether it's about nutrition, whether it's the S&C people, whether it's the psychologist. I'm going to make use of everything I have available to me to become a better athlete. So accepting that I was there because I deserved to be there, but still very much had a lot of learning about the game, physically about myself, the running side of it, because I don't like running. I don't know if you know any prop that does, so it's probably not a surprise to anyone.
But you're a six then, though. You're a back rower then.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, maybe as always a prop at heart, because I've never liked running. Because
no, you weren't. There was some resistance from 6 to 3. There was some resistance, as you well know.
Yeah, and I finished at 6 as well, so it was meant to be somewhere.
It was meant to be. What was the biggest challenge? All your sports to that date, pretty individual. Was that the biggest challenge? Sharing that journey that you're on as an athlete?
Yeah, and again, we've joked about it already, about it being a Shaunagh show, but I've genuinely grown up in a sport where it is the Shaunagh show. So if I was having a bad day, I'm probably going to have a bad session. If I hadn't eaten well, I'm going to have a bad session. But more importantly, if I eat well, if I sleep well, if I've done my research, if I know what session I'm going into in shot put, disc and hammer, like, there's very few external factors that can affect how I train as long as I'm in a good place. All I needed was my coach, a throwing circle and a shot or disc, whatever it is. Whereas you go into rugby, you're not only relying on your 14 teammates of a match day squad, you're relying on potentially 30, 35, 40, because you're talking about a training squad. And there's no good if I've eaten well, slept well, analysed the sessions, know what's coming up, if 35 others haven't. So it's that constantly having to think of other people and having to think, even like filling up a water bottle. If I need to fill up my water bottle, instead of just going and doing it, because that's what I've always done, I'd have to ask, does anybody else need any more water? Like simple things like that. If I'm hungry and I'm going to the shop to get something for me, there's a chance that other people are going to be hungry. I have to ask that. But also the side of, which is actually quite enjoyable, of getting to know how to get the best out of people. So again, it's always been about me in my sport, and I've known from a young age that I'm a very black and white type of person. I really enjoy someone telling me what they want, how to improve. I don't need it to be dressed up nicely first. I don't need to be told what I'm doing right or what's going really well first to then tell me what I need to work on, to then tell me something else really positive. Shall we call it a sugar sandwich? I don't necessarily need one of those. But I thought, well, if that's how I feel, surely everyone feels like that. So I'm very frank speaking, very black and white, and telling people, you need to be here, like you need to be in this position, you need to be calling this role. And actually I'm not getting the best response from people, trying to work out what's going on here, when really it's just other people require talking to differently. Other people have different needs. There's different ways to get the best out of people, and that's a really fun game, learning that and learning how you can change someone's mood. So someone can come to training in a foul mood, and if there's someone, dare I say really important, like a line out caller or a fly half or your scrum half, like you need them to be in a good place, otherwise the session doesn't happen well or the game doesn't happen well. So if you can, like, there's an amount of pleasure that I get from changing someone else's mood and day around for the better. If they come to training in a foul mood and I can bring them up, I can bring their emotions up, their feelings, and make them want to be there and turn it into a good session for them, like I get pleasure in that as well. So yeah, a huge challenge is learning to be part of a team sport compared to just thinking about myself or having to think about maybe 30 other people.
Was that possibly your greatest achievement as a rugby player, having the ability to do that?
I guess it depends how you measure achievements. If someone said to me, what's your greatest achievement in rugby, I'd say playing in the World Cup final and winning the Prem 15s and getting player of the match. But when you say it like that, Johnny, I think, yeah, that's a pretty cool achievement, being able to change someone's mind, opinion, emotion, being able to change their day for the better. That's yeah, now you mentioned it, that is a very good achievement as well.
It certainly is, and it's something that follows you around in all the squads you've been to. You have a huge effect on those squads and those individual people, and yeah, I would say there's a hell of an achievement. We must touch on your achievements. That was one hell of a day down at Kingsholm. You spoke with such clarity after the game in that post-match interview. It was Sarah, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Sorry. Was that something you'd pre-planned, or was it just the emotions off the cuff? Because potentially, if you thought, well, if we win, then there's a platform here at a elevated place where women's rugby isn't normally. Was it something pre-planned, or was it just from the heart?
Yeah, absolutely not pre-planned, because that would require giving thought to something else after a game. But when I'm playing rugby, all I'm doing is playing rugby. And not thinking about anything else afterwards. But it also meant I would have backed myself to get player of the match as well, which, to be fair, is not too far-fetched of a thought from me to think, well, if I get player of the match, maybe I can talk about this subject.
Oh, it's not a Prem 15's final. It's a Shaunagh show final.
But no, it wasn't pre-planned. And actually, I didn't hear a question. I couldn't hear most of her questions, so I was just sort of making up answers. And that last question in particular, if you listen to what she asked me, what I say has nothing to do with what she asks me. And
I remember, yeah.
I'm just gonna have to roll with it. And yeah, those things they're just at the top of my mind all of the time. I could give one of those sort of talks any day of the week because I don't have to think about it. I don't have to plan it. And it's just what's there, it's what's in my heart. And even just like your everyday things, the amount of you say, like my mum will say, oh, the builders are coming around, can you check what time he's coming? I go, how do you know? Say he. Or the bin men are coming. I go, how do you know they're men? But like, it does get hard work actually. But yeah, these thoughts are just always there at the top of my brain.
And again, it's something that just run through this chat and obviously through your life. Just the bravery to say something when possibly others might not say it, and that confidence in yourself to say it. And it just hit a note, didn't it? And it was a time when women's rugby is clawing up that hill, and it just resonated with a huge amount of people. And you rightly got to a lot of plaudits for coming out and saying it. Let's go to a World Cup then. That was obviously something you wanted to tick off.
Yeah, literally tick off. That was like, I wouldn't say it's why I started rugby. I would say it's why I started taking rugby seriously. It was wanting to play for England. Tick. Okay, what's next? Well, World Cup. It's a natural progression. Tick. So yeah, it was very much part of the goal the whole time I was playing for England. It was always about went to play for England. Done. Now, why am I playing for England? I am playing for England because I want to go to a World Cup, and all the good stuff that's come with it, fantastic. But my primary goal for playing rugby for England was to then play in a World Cup.
Awesome group of people. How cool was that? Because I suspect ticking the box of the World Cup is all well and good, but possibly Shaunagh Brown, people are the real key to it all, and spending that amount of time in that environment in a tournament that was being gobbled up by the local community in the country. How cool was the whole experience?
I mean, it was okay. It wasn't everything I'd ever dreamed of, if I'm honest with you, Johnny. And I'm not one to dress things up. And actually, I had the expectation of a Commonwealth Games in my head because I'd been to a Commonwealth Youth and a Commonwealth Senior, and this whole mixture of people, of countries. And I've always got this need to learn more and know more about cultures, learn more about people, learn how other systems operate, learn how other cultures operate. And so even just that mix. And there was a lot of, I guess for me, a lot of off pitch, I won't say issues, but just things that come up in my head. Not being able to necessarily mix with teams just because that's just not how it went. There was no sort of organization of mixing, and not really the time to talk to other people. There wasn't that much going on away from the pitch, which I felt quite disappointing, if I'm honest, and appreciating that the first game, the opening game at Eden Park, a huge success. I think it was sold more tickets than the total of the last World Cup put together, something like that. And again, the final, over 42,000 people, sold out Eden Park. Website crashed because there was so much demand. Like, that is all the great stuff. And the fact, actually, sometimes that the tournament went ahead because, it was put back after a year. And like, I'm not here to shoot down the World Cup at all. I just think there's a lot more that could be done to maximize on the opportunity that was there. And, there was a lot of days where we weren't playing rugby and we could have been doing things that had value. Accounting for obviously training comes first, and you're there. Getting into local community, going into schools,
clubs,
into groups, going into rugby clubs. So I was there, and I did go to one girls' tournament, and that was nearly one of the highlights of me being there, because that's, like you say, that's me. That's being amongst people, seeing the change. And as much as sometimes we can get lost as international rugby players, that we drop a ball in training, we miss a tackle, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing in the world, like, and your mood changes and you have a bad day because you've had a bad training session. But actually, sometimes we need a reality check to go out and see the effects we're having on these small children. They don't know or care that we've dropped 2 or 3 balls in a training session. What they care about is we go out and play and win of a weekend. And just seeing that effect in real life, for me, that was a bit of a wasted opportunity, that we didn't get to do much of that. And again, there's considerations around it, there's training, like, I get it, I completely get it. I just feel it's a missed opportunity. However, saying that, I do think come 2025 World Cup in England, it's going to be like a way to make us as a nation, as a country, as a rugby loving nation for women's rugby, I just think we're going to shine. And I genuinely am excited, looking forward to 2025 and how much more of a rounded tournament it can be.
So much. I'd like to carry on talking to you, but I'm so conscious of your time and you're giving it so freely today. 3 things you want to see at 2025 then?
A sold out final, 82,000. As
no, I don't want the boring RFU answers. Thanks. I want to.
But that's a cool answer. That's not nothing boring about selling 82,000 tickets.
I think it's boring because I think we'll do it. I think it's done.
Okay. All right. Fine. For the tournament to tour the country.
So I'm being slightly flippant, but yeah, you're talking about getting involved in people and leaving a legacy, which England doesn't need to wake up to women's rugby that New Zealand did, and that was the achievement, I believe, for the World Cup. So what those big broad strokes that we spoke about right at the beginning of this conversation, what do you want to see in terms of the legacy that 2025 will bring English rugby and women's rugby around the world?
Well, ultimately, it's just more people playing rugby: men, women, black, white, mixed race, Asian, just more people. Wheelchair rugby as well, more people playing rugby, but a more mixture of people from different areas. So if you look at the Prem 15's map of where the clubs are, if I was still growing up in Peckham, there's not really a club that I could get to with ease. It's just rugby just wasn't a thing. There was no local club. It's just what it is. So more clubs and more people playing rugby, and clubs that are more accessible. So how many clubs do you go to? You can get a bus to. How many do you go? You can get a train, and the club is walking distance of a train station. Or do you have to have a car to get to most clubs? And so therefore, someone like me growing up without a car and a family wouldn't have been able to play rugby. So it's just getting more people, particularly those who would not have played rugby, to play rugby. But also I say it's also as part of the same thing, the tournament to tour the country. So as much as the men's game, it's all about Twickenham and people come to Twickenham. I really like the fact that previously we've done it on the road and we go to people, because it's almost like there's only a certain type of people in this world who can come to Twickenham. If you're coming up from Durham down to Twickenham, that's a big ask. If we can go to them and get a whole group of people who have potentially never watched it, can't watch it, can't afford to get there, can't afford the ticket, etc., etc. If we get them watching rugby, then they might play, or they might referee, or they might volunteer at the club, whatever it is, at that success. So having a spread of people from different places, from different areas, from different backgrounds, different cultures playing rugby, for me, that would be success. And being able to relate to someone who is a rugby player, whether they sound like them, look like them, whatever it is, just getting more people feeling accessible to rugby.
Availability of the sport.
Yes. Yeah. And on TV as well, regularly. Why not? In good quality. Why not?
Oh, I'm biting my tongue. As you know, that's a little area of mine and a constant frustration. But yeah, that's the way to drive it forward. But we will keep working that space, and yeah, things are afoot. So, but your decision to end it all, obviously the World Cup, that's ticked off. Again, we're not going to mention your age and what have you. But why did you decide Christmas, Harlequins? Is life moving elsewhere? And he just got engaged. Huge congratulations. Well, yeah, not so far ago. I just thought, this is the time to see it off. And actually, it was supposed to be a big game, wasn't it? But a home game for Harlequins is not a bad way to do it.
Yeah, in terms of time, like life moves on. I'm getting married next year, maybe start a family, etc. And at my age, I can't have a baby and come back in terms of when the World Cup cycle is, etc. And I say I can't. I don't want to. That's just the end of it. But why December? It's mainly because, and we have touched on it, the time of the tournament. So generally tournaments are in the summer, and then you're not going to come back to a season. But because of where the tournament was in the calendar, I came back to a bit of a season as such. So it was, I might as well play a few games. Like I might as well go to what was supposed to be big game December, and then call it quits for a calendar year. So if it was in the summer, I probably would have called it quits straight after the tournament, before the start of the season. But by the time I come back, the season had already started. So it was like, and the fact that I didn't play that much minutes at the World Cup. So it was nice to come back to Quins and actually play some rugby and get a couple of, well, I say 80, it's like 70, 75 minutes under my belt. So then it felt like I'd literally given everything, rather than sort of the 15 minutes at the end of the final. I'd given, I think the game in the end was 75 odd minutes, whatever it was. So yeah, it was like end of season or end of year, and I just chose end of year.
When you sat in that change room afterwards, pretty decent game. I believe you're in the team of the round for the Prem 15s. You sit there and go, right decision.
100%. Yeah, even now, people ask me, do you think it's right? And especially those stats that come out today, like highest ball carrier, team of the round. I don't think, oh, what if I'd have stayed? Like, I know that's what I'm capable of. I've always known that's what I'm capable of, because I've been doing it for years. It's not a surprise that I can do that. So no, it's still very much the right decision for me. Yeah.
And yeah, if it hadn't been for Crowbar Cocaine, you could have had a try as well. Just to round it all off.
No, that's Amy's thing. That's her thing. I just carry the ball. We give other people the glory.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But I mean, you know what, 96 performance, I believe that was for Harlequins. And I did have the stats up here. There they are. And I think you scored 54 tries in 96 appearances. And obviously the final win. 3 Grand Slam titles, 4 Six Nations titles in 30 caps. There's the roll call. What's next, Shaunagh?
Oh, who knows, Johnny? We'll see where the mood takes me. And even since retirement, like, I've had a few opportunities come in. Not that I'm going to tell you before you ask what they are. It's just up to me whether I want to take them, essentially. And is it right for me at this moment in time? Yeah, there's no hard and fast plan, and that surprises people. I actually generally don't have a plan. Like, if you'd have asked me, even I was looking at pictures from big game last year, I was sitting there thinking, oh, I had no idea I was going to retire by this time this year. So yeah, there's not always a plan. I just go with the flow. So if people got something out there they want me to do, let me know. I just see what opportunities come up and see what I want to take. Well, but be present. I still want to be present. I still want to be involved in rugby. I still want to be on the rugby scene. I still want to keep using my voice. I still want to keep reminding people that women are worthy, women are important, women can achieve more. I would like to be involved in some capacity in 2025, obviously not playing. Like, I still want to keep spreading the good word that, you know, women are here to stay, and you might as well entertain us and let us do more, because we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I that's really, really great to hear, because I think you realise some voices stretch further than others, and I think yours stretches very, very far, and that's brilliant to hear that that you still want to have a role like that, because yeah, you are incredibly engaging and always effervescent and always got a big smile, and it sounds like there may be some more Browns, coming along in the future. That's just little hints there, and weddings and all that. By the way, everyone's invited to the wedding.
If you can get to St. Lucia,
get to St. Lucia, yeah, exactly. There's
so expensive. Most people can't come.
Oh, there you are. Shaunagh Brown's getting married. Huge congratulations. I just want to finish just with quick fire. So some quick fire questions, no thought, just bang straight out with the answer. Highlight of your rugby career?
Winning Prem 15s, in particular getting Player of the Match 2021.
Toughest competitor?
As an individual or as a group?
Team. Okay, go team and individual then.
Toughest competitor, Sarah Byrne, and a pleasure for her, because she's such an incredible athlete. So for me to go toe to toe with her the whole of my rugby career has been an incredible honour. Always made me a better person.
Toughest team to play?
Team. I'm take it easy one, Saracens, because it's changing now. I say you never know the result, but it could be the same for Bristol, could be the same said for Exeter now. That's actually quite a hard one to answer. There's although Worcester are quite a physical team, Sale are quite big and heavy team to go. I can't answer that.
France, New Zealand.
Oh yeah, forgot about the international teams. Yeah, France, that's it, done. It is like running into brick walls time and time again. Yeah, France. Yeah.
Most skillful you've ever played with?
Oh, this is not quick fire. Okay. Ask me again. I'll be quick. Ready? Ask me again.
Most skillful player you've ever played with?
Ella Amory at Quins. So she's a Belgium sevens. And your face suggests like, oh, that's a bit. But she's. So
I know
skillful.
Ella. Yeah. She's been on the pod.
Her individual ability, but also she works so hard. She's, I think, like the only player I've ever known. By the time everyone's gone home, finished, she's off running. She's doing some sort of stuff. She's doing her own kicking. She's doing her own handling, and it shows on the pitch. Even just just the spin of the ball on her fingers and bits like that. So yeah, I'd say Ella Amory.
And she came over here with just a hope and a prayer, didn't she? And a plastic bag full of stuff. So
My kind of girl.
yeah, indeed so. Go to her for advice as to do what to do next. And last question. You got 30 caps. Would you give 29 away for a win in New Zealand back in December?
My initial answer was, yeah, of course I would. But then I thought I wouldn't have achieved all of the off-pitch stuff I have if I only had one cap. So no, the answer is no.
It's not about destination. It's about the journey.
Yeah.
Shaunagh, that'll do us. Again, thank you so much for your time. And I think if I'm in some tiny small part, a little spokesman for the women's rugby, then thank you. Because as I say, some voices reach further than others, and the power to ask has been there throughout your entire life, and the bravery you've shown has been exceptional, and you have transcended across the sport and reached new areas of supporters that we wouldn't have done before. So thank you so much for all of that, and you've been a pleasure to commentate on the field. Your lung-busting runs and your physicality, adorned with the freshest hairstyle and the next big smile, has been absolutely brilliant. So what an achievement from SC15 all the way to World Cup finals and Commonwealth Games in between. Thank you, Shaunagh Brown.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on the pod. And maybe one day I'll be sitting next to you in a commentary box. Maybe that's one of the things that have popped up. Maybe, I'm just saying. Maybe, eventually, at some point, potentially. I don't know.
So that's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Just to let you know,
no.
That's happening. Clearly, you heard it here first. No, Shaunagh, look, brilliant. Hopefully, it sounds like our paths will cross very, very soon on our touchline somewhere.
Sure.
Thank you so much once again.
Okay, thank you, Johnny.